Now about the Mongol language. Derived from the Syriac alphabet used by the missionary monks who brought Christianity to the steppe tribes, the writing was made from letters rather than characters, but it flowed vertically down the page in columns like Chinese. As for the very few books that were written, Genghis Khan did keep statutes in books for the laws, and these were on white paper bound in blue, the sacred color of the eternal sky. And it says here that the books were called noms, and that was derived from the Greek nomos, meaning law. Something else he did, which was a bit nefarious, is any of his generals that held armies, any of his commanders of units of 1,000 and 10,000, sent their own sons and their own sons' best friends to him personally to make his own unit of 10,000. Instead of threatening to kill them if their relatives misbehaved, Genghis Khan introduced a far more effective strategy. Genghis Khan trained the would-be hostages as administrators and kept them as a ready reserve to replace any ineffective or disloyal official. The threat of such potential replacement probably did much more to ensure loyalty in the field than the threat that the relative might be killed. But that's interesting. Now about communication, because this is a huge spot of land. How the hell do you communicate? To facilitate communication so that the orders got to the intended recipient, Genghis Khan relied on a system of fast riders known as arrow messengers. The military supplied the riders, but the local people supplied the stations. The postal service ranked alongside the military in importance for the Mongols, and the individual Mongols that were allowed to serve in it in lieu of regular military service. Depending on local terrain, the stations were set approximately 20 miles apart, and each station required about 25 families to maintain and operate. Although the stations were open for public use, much of the information on the individual stations and the total number at any given time remained a carefully guarded secret, and therefore the information has not survived. Some idea of its expanse can be derived from the 18th century, however, when the system still operated and required approximately 64 stations to cross Mongolia from the Alta Mountains in the west to the entrance through the Great Wall into China in the east. 64 stations. It just mentions here some alliances he made. He sent his eldest son, whose name was Gochi, to Sibir, which is way up northern Russia. And it says here the forest tribes, as they're called. He sent Gochi and his Tunmen, so that's 10,000 soldiers, up to Sibir, which is the modern name for Siberia, to secure submission of the forest tribes and the reindeer herders. And he returned successfully with thousands of new recruits for the Mongol Empire. And then he also talks about the Uyghur people, who farmed the oases of the great deserts of the Taklamakan and the surrounding areas in what is now Xinjiang Autonomous Region in China. And he got a bunch of stuff from them too. And he also sent his daughter to be married to their leader. So now their leader is Genghis Khan's son-in-law. So just to give you an idea of what they've conquered, there's a map of what they are in 1260. So they're pretty far west into Ukraine. And down south, they've got a lot of the Middle East. And then east, they're into China. And they're up into Moscow, pretty far north into Russia.